And this is kind of why I stepped away from like the whole political realm, because once you take a step back and I have the view from nowhere, get so far back away from it, and sometimes standing very close to something, you can really get a good viewpoint of it. So I stood all the way back. I got out of the mix, red and blue state. I got out of all that stuff, and I'm like, where's the core things going on? They're just pushing what they want. This is just your personal interest, and this is how you want things to be. Then you go on the other side, there are people who believe wholeheartedly in their beliefs because it's just what they personally want. It's the same exact thing on both sides. And truly, that's what a democracy is. Your power to espouse what you want and what you believe is true. And I'm going to cite like health for you to have the ability to do that. You have the right to espouse stupidity at your own free will.
It's become like this oversaturated with politics on a broader scale. It's subjective driven, emotionally driven, and they tap into this very infantile, like the way children are. They just want to grab things for themselves because they want something that is beneficial for them, but without the responsibility. You can't put politics as the highest because politicians and lobbyists and so forth, it's not driven by the intention of the good for the people in the nation, so to say. It's driven by money, power, much occultism and so forth as well. Driven by the will. Politics, it is important, but it's quite a low level of reality.
Why people have viewpoints, it takes the emotional reaction away when you can understand the behaviors and the intentions behind why someone is thinking or doing a particular thing. And once you actually understand that, it removes the emotional response. And if you look on Twitter, if you look at the whole political landscape right now, what is 99% of the discourse? It's emotional. Well, you're doing this and we shouldn't be doing this. You don't care about X, you don't care about Y. It's like, I just can't engage in those sorts of things. Thomas Sowell, he has a very eloquent quote that plays in the back of my mind. He said, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. A way you can know if a statement is true or not is if that sentence or that statement exists in multiple different independent domains. So that's how I'm looking at things now. I don't just want to know if something's true in one domain. I'm trying to see if that statement or this concept, it is not just true in this little field over here, but it's just true in multiple different domains. And that's where I am right now.
That was something I wanted to get into. Try to lay something out for you and with a question in the end. I agree with you, and that's also how I perceive reality. If you take the theistic Christian world view, then every truth is God's truth. If something is true on one level, in one domain, it's also true in another domain. I see reality as this dance between the one and the many. Multiplicity, unity, fragmentation, communion, potentiality, actuality, then a nation. You have the collective and you have the individual. Everything in the world is one, but many at the same time. When you're studying neuroscience and medicine and so forth, you have this notion of this pattern and structure.
Yeah, it glitters my every single thought about every other subject, a multitude of different things, and they happen to be together and serve a purpose. My main drive is unquestionably now truth, and to getting to the bottom of everything. And I would say what's driving me is that pursuit for truth.
Hello, I'm your host, Matthias Lidborn, and this is the Metanoia Path Podcast. Hello and welcome back to the Metanoia Path Podcast with me, your host, Matthias Lidborn. For today's episode, we will be joined by none other than Kyle Maxwell. who is a aspiring critical neurologist and is studying pre-medicine in case of his MD PhD in neuroscience. Kyle is also the host of the Kyle Maxwell Podcast, which is a series of deep discussions with a range of guests, including entrepreneurs, scientists, psychologists, coaches, and much, much more. So in this discussion I had with Kyle, we delve deep into many different topics as usual. And we talk about philosophy, religion, science, neuroscience, and how he combines his more philosophical inclinations and also how he managed to be in many different domains at the same time, like philosophy and neuroscience, politics, and also religion, more specifically Christianity. With no further ado, here's the episode. Hello and welcome to the Metanoia Path podcast with me, Matthias Lidborn, and today we have Kyle Jordan Maxwell with us. Welcome, Kyle.
How are you doing, Matthias?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Great to hear. So I just want to tell my audience what I know about you, and if I got something wrong, just correct me afterwards. So
Okay.
So I found you through an interview you had with Jay Dyer on your podcast, and you struck me as a really interesting guy, because you have this you engage in many different realms that interconnects psychology, philosophy, science, neurology, and so forth, and also talk a bit about religion and Christianity and so forth. And Kyle, he is a aspiring critical. You're aspiring to be. You're studying critical neuroscience, right?
Well, yeah, I plan on getting the PhD in neuroscience and practicing neurology.
Yeah, you're aspiring to become a pre-med MD PhD.
Yep.
And you're also a philosopher.
Yeah, you could call me that.
Yeah. And you have some lectures. I have seen you're lecturing a bit and do a little stuff like that. And critical neuroscience is very interesting, because it's. Would you say that it is very much akin, not akin, but it's very much related to like philosophy in a way? Yeah, of course, science is something that is searching for truth, but with critical neuroscience is also this part of this, like how the science in the field of the brain and everything like that, how that impact society and so forth, and you gather like studies from how just things like media impact people and so forth. Am I out and about, or is something like that?
You're on the right track. The only mild difference I would say is so the actual career path is a critical neurologist, and neuroscience, neurology involves neuroscience, but the career is called a critical neurologist. So critical neuroscience is not really like a thing. It's called like a critical neurologist. So that's the only thing that I would say is like the mild difference. And to your point about incorporating philosophy into that, you could look at it that way, because the difference between like a let's say a regular neurologist, like you would come into a clinic or you would get a consult, like I'm having lower back pain or my one side of my face is not working. Those would be most likely in the non-acute setting, but something that I aspire to is a critical neurologist. You add that word critical to it. So these are like life or death situations, like someone's coming in with an ischemic stroke, or there's like an epileptic seizure happen longer than 5 minutes, or someone's having like repeated seizures, and they need like, that's the word critical. They need critical care in this moment, and that's kind of where I want to lead my career down, is taking care of patients in like the very acute setting. Like they need this treatment right now. Like they need this interference like right now. We need to adjust this. We need to adjust that right now. Setting. And you could look at it through a philosophical lens. That's kind of like the whole point of what I'm trying to do with the podcast and the videos and everything. It's kind of how we can view everything through everything. And I think just being open to it, just being receptive and just being cognizant of what other factors, what other things are either plaguing or affecting my perception through what I'm looking at, whether that's neuroscience, whether that's neurology, whether that's reading the Bible, whether that's running out on the street, working out in the gym, hanging out with your wife, whatever. Like, what is affecting my perception in this moment right now? And that's kind of like the central theme of what I would say is my corpus of work.
Yeah, that was something I was a little bit thinking about, because that was my intuition that was my first thought. Critical. It's, of course, it's like acute cases which, as you said, is on when time is running out, so to say. But my understanding was also that there is this brand of neuroscience that is called something like critical neuroscience as well. Like
Sure.
when you study the brain in the context of society and so forth. Maybe I got that wrong. I don't know, but I read something about it. And it was
So maybe
something.
you're talking about critical theory.
Can be that. Yes, I think that is right. Yes, that is right. Yeah.
Yeah, the critical theorists, they kind of like, well, that kind of like a role type feel like during this force within about the 20th century. And then they kind of got started applied to politics, and then they started getting applied to religion and race. That's how we get their critical race theory, that whole pedagogy. And, I've been trying to give the devil his due and to be more, I guess, objective with my opinions about different schools of thought. In the past, you could find videos of me like me railing pros for honor, but it's not background. Sorry.
It's a bit maybe we can change afterward. Maybe we could try this a little bit, and maybe we can change back to the first option with the
Fuck.
because I think so. Just to see if it's a little bit better now. Yeah, because sometimes it gets like this noise. So, but let's try it. Yeah, sorry. Continue, please.
Okay. What was I saying? Oh yeah, you could find videos, clips in the past of me like railing like certain philosophy, or say like this is crazy or this that, and there's no nuance within it. And like every other person alive, they're not right about everything, and people's minds can change. And as I get older and progress, like some of my viewpoints change. And starting to understand that we don't understand where those people are coming from. Like for people who propose things like critical race theory, or people who think that should look at every single aspect through a political lens, or through a have nots lens, or through a bourgeoisie or a proletariat lens. But we should view everything as a dial of equity and equality. That some people, I mean, that's a legitimate viewpoint, because number one, that's kind of all they know. That's the only really thing that's the only way they know how to look at certain situations. And number two, they have a goal. Like they have an end. So if I'm putting forward, like, for instance, this policy is a fair defensive because it affects X, Y, and Z, and we should do X, Y, and Z for another group. But they have a goal. Like they're trying to put forward their own people. Like people in Congress who think that we should dictate laws by the color of our skin. Like we have people who actually believe those things. And is it right? Is it wrong? Like that's not really the question. The question is like, where is that person coming from? Well, they want it to be this particular way because that's what they want. Like, and this is kind of why I step away from like the whole political realm, because once you take a step back, there was a man who wrote a book called The View from Nowhere. I forgot who wrote it, but I take that step back and I have the view from nowhere, and I get so far back away from it. And sometimes standing very close to something can really get a good viewpoint of it. So I stood all the way back. I got out of the mix, red and blue state. I got out of all that stuff, and I'm like, where's the core thing that's going on? Okay, well, they're just pushing what they want. This is your personal interest. If this is how you want things to be. Then you go on the other side, there are people who believe wholeheartedly in their beliefs because it's just what they personally want. It's the same exact thing on both sides. So if we want to look at neuroscience through the realm of politics and geopolitical or socioeconomic stances, and like by all means, go for it. And truly, that's what a democracy is. Your power to report and espouse what you want and what you believe is true. And I'm going to cite like health for you to add the ability to do that. That's pretty much all we can do. And that's what a liberal democracy is. You have the right to espouse stupidity at your own free will. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
I think I hear what you're saying, and it's become like this oversaturated with politics, not just in people's individual mind, but also on a broader scale.
Yeah.
Because it's very driven by it's subjective driven, emotionally driven, and very infantile on many sides, because people when they engage in politics, it's very much they what they do, they tap into this very infantile like the way children are. They just want to grab things for themselves because they want they want something that is beneficial for them, but without the responsibility. That's a big problem, and you can see this everywhere. And it's all also, I would say, when you put things in a place where you should have the highest, that is God. You can't put politics as the highest. It doesn't work, and it doesn't there's no downstream, because politicians and the lobbyists and so forth, it's not driven by the intention of people's the good for the people in the nation, so to say. It's driven by money, power, and yeah,
Yeah.
much occultism and so forth as well, actually. So
Yeah.
it's driven by the will and driven by money and so forth. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. And actually, politics, it is important, but it's a quite a low level of reality, let's say.
Yeah.
It's very, yeah, it's
I'm
very,
glad you said that. And I realized that. Uh, yeah, so the problem is like I kind of built like a mass of my followers based off of like political opinions on Twitter. And I kind of took a huge step back in even engaging with stuff like that. Like you said, that it's very low resolution. I can't look. Like I generally cannot look at things through the lens of left or right anymore, because once you start studying like the deeper mechanisms that explain, or that would try to explain why people have viewpoints from the beginning. Like once you start to learn to understand that, it's like, well, it doesn't make you like a determinist. Like, oh well, they grew up in this environment, so that's why they're saying this, that's why they're saying that. And I completely disagree with that mode of thinking as well. But it just helps you understand. It takes the emotional reaction away when you can understand the behaviors and the intentions behind why someone is thinking or doing a particular thing. And once you actually understand that, it removes the emotional response. And if you look on Twitter, if you look at the whole political landscape right now, what is 99% of the discourse? It's emotional. Well, you're doing this and we shouldn't be doing this. You don't care about X. You don't care about Y. It's like, I just can't engage in those sorts of things anymore. And it's funny because I don't know if you're familiar with Thomas Sowell. He wrote a few really, really good books, basic economics. I think it was the Rednex book. I forgot what the name was, but he was like a famous economist. If he's still alive today, he doesn't really have much of a voice anymore because he's already kind of extinct. But Thomas Sowell, he has a very eloquent quote that plays in the back of my mind. He said, "There are no solutions, there are only trade-offs." So there is no solution, no matter how much I put glitter and sparkle on this thing, that this idea I have, or this certain policy is going to fix everything. No matter what that is, it's not a solution, it's only a trade-off. And that's true economically. It's not just true economically, it's true biologically, it's true philosophically, it's true in every other dimension. And a side note, a way you can know if a statement is true or not by looking at the words, is if that sentence or that statement exists in multiple different independent domains. So if it is true that there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs, and that's just true in economics. Okay, let's apply that to let's say the blood almost. So there's no solutions, only trade-off. Well, is that true in humans? Is that true in biology? Is that true in a completely unrelated topic? Well, this is what the human body is a seesaw. If I have crazy amounts of glucose, what am I low in? Well, I'm low on my insulin. If I have a large amount of plasma within my bloodstream, what am I low on? I'm low in my hematocrit low. If I'm really, really high in anxiety, if I'm really, really high in if I'm anxious from breathing rapidly, then what am I low in? I'm low in my serotonin, low in my dopamine. as a seesaw. Well, that's true there. Well, okay. Well, is it true in neuroscience? Well, if I have a whole bunch of plaques and if I have a whole bunch of tumors and stuff, well, not a whole bunch, but I have like 1 or 2 tumors in my brain, but I'm low. I'm low in enzyme. I'm low in a certain kind of cell that kills that. Like that's the seesaw. So that's how I'm looking at things now. I don't just want to know if something's true in one domain. I'm trying to see if that statement or this concept, it is not just true in this little field over here, but it's true in multiple different domains. And that's where I am right now in, I guess, my discourse in my work.
I'm really glad you said that, actually, because that was something I wanted to get into and try to lay something out for you, and with a question in the end. So, and I agree with you, and that's also how I perceive reality. That if you take the theistic Christian world view, then every truth is God's truth. And if something is true, as you said, on one level, in one domain, it's also true in another domain. So what I wanted to I will try to flesh it out. But, I see reality as this this dance between, the philosophical problem between the one and the many. It's this dance with everything in reality. You can see it's multiplicity versus unity. It's fragmentation and communion, potentiality, actuality. Possibility, potentiality. There's many different potential outcomes, and when something has become one, it's actualized. But it's still, there is many possibilities. It's this as you saw, the seesaw. And also, if you go into like egalitarianism and hierarchy, it springs into that as well, in some way there. But you have and then it's also, like, you can say it in a nation. You have the collective and you have the individual. So it's always this: everything in the world is one, but many at the same time. So look at that chair, for example. It's a chair. It's one chair. This is the highest in that domain of the, let's say, the domain of the chair. And it's one, but still it's consists of many parts. So if you tear this chair apart, everything will lie on the floor, and you will see a wooden leg that's not used for anything particular. You will see a cushion that you will sit on, but you can't use it now because it's on the floor, so it's not use of it, anything. You have the support of the back, same with that. But then when you build this chair, these parts to one chair, everything becomes in a way glorified, because when the chair is one chair, all the parts have it's glorified in a way, because it's you see the purpose of every part of the chair. And that's also true in a collective, in a nation. When everyone is in balance, the one and the many is in balance with something higher, intrinsic high purpose, then it's in harmony, it's fulfilled. And this also going to the how I perceive it. If you hold to the Christian worldview, you have the first cause, you have God. If you believe in a Christian God, it's the Trinity. And that's the same. It's one God, but three persons. And that that is, you have the multiplicity and the unity, and then you have the highest on the top that binds, and that is you can see this with everything, and also like a thing with like take like a meditation practice versus a contemplation practice. Meditation is like this, as you said when you talked about politics, you stepped away because then you see all the potential, you saw all the possibilities, and it's a frame of fragmented potentialities, like let's say, in your integration of something new to take root in yourself when you have this stay back or lay back view. And then contemplation is like this focusing instead of open. So yeah, and like Jordan Peterson always saying, you can read in like in Taoism and almost every religion, chaos versus order. So that my question that in the end was, and you answered a bit about it, but when you're studying neuroscience and studying medicine and so forth, do you see this pattern? Do you see this? Do you have this notion of this pattern and structure? If this also is obvious in the study of the human body, the neurology, and so forth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that it litters my every single thought about every other subject. And just to comment on what you just said, that was like eloquently. But for someone who hasn't spoken, you said it in like a month. That was like, I mean, the way you laid that out, it's like that was good, good.
I have a lot of time to think.
Yeah, that's good. No, that's really, really good, because that ties back to one of my favorite quotes by Plato, and it's the wise man speaks when he has something to say.
Yeah.
Fools when he has to say something. And back to your whole point in trying to draw everything one, I think of Heraclitus, and that's one of my favorite Greek Stoic thinkers, Heraclitus of Ephesus. He was one who, the first who famously said, "No man steps in the same river twice." So the river is constantly going, and maybe just one river, but it's multiple different rivers at this any exact time. So if I step in this river at this 1 second, then I take my foot out and I step it back in, just millions of different water molecules that I'm stepping in, and the ones that I previously stepped in are 100 or 200 feet down the stream. But it is one river, and someone may listen to that and be like, okay, like, what is your point? The point is that things can be multiple different things within the one thing. It's not just about the thing itself, it's about the unity of it. Just like how you broke apart the chair, and that's how a constructionist or a post-structuralist would look at a chair, who would see it as a multitude of different things, and they happen to be together and serve a purpose. If you look at it from a pragmatic standpoint, the chair is a chair if it's not able to sit in it. But I think in how you and I both think, I think of something as being true as the spirit that created that thing. Is if the pieces of the object are working in the manner in which the person created, what spirit was driving that creation. Because I think of things as something created. This is how we think, because we're both creationists, and it's kind of hard because I struggle with that, and that combines with my science brain and my material brain, and those are always going like this. But I enjoy that battle because that's the whole reason why I open my mouth every single day, because I'm talking about the battle between creation and evolution and fit in God and matter. Like that's the whole entire, and that's my thing. Like that's what I love doing. But back to the point of everything being one, I think of Eric Cladis. Another great quote by him. He said, "Listen not to me, but to the logos. It is wise to say that all things are one." Like that is my roots. Like that's where I go back to when I'm thinking about different kinds of things. It all has to be at one, that through line. If I see things outside of that, that immediately becomes chaotic. And chaos is not bad if only it's control. But if I'm seeing things in different parts and it's not making sense of the discontinuity, that's going to have psychological, it's going to have physiological ramifications. If I'm in disalignment, or if I'm taking on this dualist type of thing, if I would like to go Descartes here, if my mind is doing one thing and my body or my soul is doing another, I can claim that, but I'm going to have a devastating disconnecting in my life. Things are going to be happening that are not going my way because I'm like this. I'm not thinking everything is not going in that through line. And I appreciate you bringing up making talking about something being water. There being Trinity and multitude within the singular, and there being a highest value on top, is because, and I was thinking about Genesis. I was thinking about Heraclitus. I was thinking about Plato, and I was also thinking about Genesis when you were saying that the objects within one thing are all going towards one direction. Because I was thinking about in the beginning when God created the earth and the heavens and the foundations of the earth. And if you read Genesis, every time he completing something, he said, "And it was good." So he made the skies, he made the ground, he made the things that within it, he made the beasts that crawled upon the land. Then he said it was good. And that was so, like, why was that part in there? Like, so there you have two parts. You have a guy who just made something, like God, there it is. But then he said it was good. And it's like, well, why are those two things in the same sentence? It's like, think about the spirit that created that thing. That was made with an intention. It wasn't just there to be there. There was a purpose. And not just a purpose, there was a divine purpose that created that thing that now is manifesting as a chair. There was a divine purpose there. It wasn't just the thing. And when we separate those two things, it's not bad to separate those two things because that's literally what science is. I'm looking at something in an objective lens. If you're my patient, you happen to be my brother, but you're not my brother when you're sitting on that bed. Like, you were just a regular old patient. But I have to be objective when you're looking at something through a scientific lens. Now, an ethical or a emotional lens, yeah, you're my brother. You have the same exact DNA. But to separate those two things, you have to do that at your own peril, because you can lose track of what the purpose was. The purpose wasn't just to have that thing to be there. There was a purpose. There was a divine purpose. And I always try to apply that to answer your question. I try to apply that to every other thing. So some people can get lost in the neuroscience. I can get lost in the neurons. I can get lost in the cells. I see people get lost in the enzymes. They get lost in the philosophies. They get lost in the science. They can get lost in the DNA and the proteins. They can get lost in that stuff. But I also have to think about it. Okay, well, aside from an evolutionary standpoint, how would that thing get there and why is it there? And you're not supposed to ask that question in a scientific setting because, number one, it's annoying. And number two, it's not really the purpose of the science. Well, the purpose is to isolate something, and to study it, and just figure out what it is, not why it's there. But when you forget, or when you don't think about why it's there, that's when everything begins to go to hell. That's where the potential, go back to potentiality, that's where things can potentially become devastating. We've already seen that. When you take something out of a ethical framework and you put it there to analyze outside of an ethical framework, that is science, that is empiricism, but that is where all the hell gets. And that's what I'm really trying to hone in on, and to allow people to understand that. How did that protein get there? We have our adenine, the cytosine, the thymine, where we have these different nucleotides. Okay, well, that's great to study them, but what? Where the hell did they come from? Well, they came from this enzyme, it came from this protein. Okay, well, where did the end? Every protein needs an enzyme. So where did the enzymes come from to catalyze proteins? Where do they come from? What drew that reaction? Nobody knows. No one can answer that question. But where did they come from? They were always a floating ball of gas in the universe. Where did it come from? You have people who think that, we were in a soup, and then this freaking soup multiplied and then became this freaking amoeba type of thing, and then that thing whatever. Yeah, some people who think that we've been here for billions of years. I personally just don't buy that at all. If you look at the data, for instance, carbon, I think carbon 12 or carbon 14, that's something traced back to a particular X amount of years. And if you don't have that isotope of carbon, that's kind of hard to have life. So how can life itself predate the existence of a particular isotope of carbon if carbon is one of the main things that are needed for human beings and for complex organisms to exist? So this is one of my questions I have there. But anyway, I'm getting too sidetracked there. I want to know why, and I want to repeatedly ask that question, why, and for what purpose is this survey? I was reading a biochemistry book the other day, looking at basic the breakdown of the glucose class. I was reading this book, and on the side of the book, I kid you not, I seen a quote from Ephesians, a whole level quote from Ephesians in a biochemistry text. And why is that? Because I was particularly looking at, I think it was something about photosynthesis. There was something, I don't know what I was looking at, but the Bible quote, something from Ephesians, there's a time for life, and then there's a time for death. And I'm like, why is that in the biochemistry textbook? Who the hell put that there? Why did these two things match? How did, not saying that the people back then who in the freaking Old Testament knew about biochemistry, I'm not trying to make that argument, but the thing is, it's you can't lose track of, that's what we're really talking about here. When we talk about science, when we're talking about things, that's what we're actually talking, that's what we're actually saying. The Bible is what we're actually doing. When we look at science, when we look at philosophy, we talk about economics. When you look at scripture, that's what we're actually talking about. If you make your most basic sentence of what you're really trying to get at, the scientist is saying, well, basically, this is the doctor basically telling you that this is your time to die. I can say, oh, well, ma'am, we try to revive this heart. We weren't able to get into certain electricity, get out of this SA node, and this blood is, these cells are rapidly. It's well, get to the point. What are you saying? He's dying. This is your time to leave. That's literally what I'm saying, but I'm just saying it in a different language. How is that not the same exact thing? That's my whole point. That's the same exact thing. I can describe phenomena in that scientific language, and you can say it in a biblical language. This is your time to die. God is calling you home. Your cells are done. Like it's the same exact thing. That's what I'm trying to get people to. That's what I would love for more people to understand.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That was really great. And you actually, again, touched on something I wanted to get into. So there was much to pick from there, but
Sorry.
hello there. Just a quick interruption from the conversation here. I will just inform you that if you would like any coaching session with me, you can easily do that by just send me a mail and you will receive a free consultation. And if you put the episode name in the mail, you will get additional free hour of coaching. Also for personal training and diet plans. Just hit me on the mail or send me a PM on Instagram or YouTube. Thank you very much. And now back to the conversation. You touched on many things there I wanted to talk to you about and also ask questions. And you're coming back to this again, that one truth in one domain is a truth in another domain. And the scientific way to perceive things is very, it's objective, and it's very it's not human, you know, it's very mechanical. And that's also something you might need if you're a doctor or something like that, if you want to like preserve your emotional state and your mental being, so you don't get dragged down to misery when you see all these cases and don't get emotionally involved with the patient. But at the same time, there is something there that is very very it has become this very artificial way to handle people. Because for starters, when you come into a hospital, it's more like coming into a service place for your car. There's no beauty, and we know that beauty affects us immensely. Like when you come into church, there is beauty everywhere. I don't know if you have been to a Orthodox church.
I haven't. I have a lot of mega churches in my
Yeah.
In my town, and I don't like them at all. And I've been thinking about like getting back to like a very like you said, like a like not a huge jumbotron or like the lights or the fancy, like I'm so done with that. Like I'm really trying to get back to like a setting that you're talking about.
Yeah, and that is night and day. It's not even comparable, actually. So it's just to be in a more traditional church, like Orthodox church, or the traditional church of the Orthodoxy. It's just to be there. It's you you you're not just feeling better. You actually you become your health becomes better just to be there, because your stress level go down, and everyone is there for a very good intention, and there for the highest purpose and so forth. So that you can see that hospitals, let's say in the medical institutions, so forth, there is no beauty. And that is one thing when you're not incorporating the metaphysical, understanding of the metaphysical, that things that we don't can see, things that we don't can touch, is most valuable for humans. It's love, it's communion, it's relation, it's love for the other, it's it's beauty and also not just beautiful art, but art with a purpose.
Yeah.
Like when you can see, like if you do something for maybe you do it for an intrinsic purpose. Like if you do some art maybe for once again to a church that that has a purpose in that context, and it's not there for just um someone to interpret and have it like entertainment, but it's beauty. And this you could have in a hospital. You could have an intention with art and beauty, and also have, if it were possible, if you didn't care that much about the economics of the institution, you could have a well-trained doctor that is trained in philosophy, psychology, and not just these mainstream psychology, but more like, Carl Jung, and also maybe in the church fathers and so forth. Then you would get a whole other relationship between the doctor and the patient if this was permitted, because that will drain resources, of course. But so this is a quite for me. When I come to hospitals and so forth, that's something that struck me every time. There is no beauty. People don't feel better by just visiting it. That would be the starting point, because we know that something like a cancer, that doesn't come from only because of you're eating bad or genetics and so forth. It's also stress, and it's also when you're aligned with something that you perceive as meaningful, then all your levels in your body and so forth is also in harmony. I will think, and it's not that good of a environment for the cancer to grow. So, I mean, that would be a starting point for if you want to like reform a hospital. This is a big thought, but just observation there. And what I think is so great when I hear you speak is this, that and this is something that when you spoke with Jay Dyer and also John Vervaeke, you had on your
Yeah.
podcast, and because you're very serious, and I have said this before in the podcast. I really like serious people that take stuff serious. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
because it's not usual in this day and age, and um,
And John Vervaeke, just by the way, he's a brilliant guy. He really crafted a lot of like my ideas for everything that I'm saying now. Like he was like I mean, that's one of the smartest people. Not just saying that because he came on my podcast, but he's one of the most dangerously intelligent people I believe who was like alive, right? And I mean, that may not mean much coming from me, but that guy, like he literally knows everything. Like if you watch his meaning crisis lectures, if you watch listen to
yeah,
side
I actually
conversations,
watched the whole thing. It
yeah,
was really
it's like he literally knows everything. He's a really intelligent guy.
yeah, and you and John had a really. It was a time ago I watched it, but it was a good, really good conversation you got there.
Yeah, I wish
And
I could ask him more questions, but I was a little, it's like it's kind of like meeting your idol in a way. I was kind of like a little nervous, so I didn't really get to ask him like as soon as the podcast ended, I'm like, damn, like I had to ask him this, I want to ask him that, but it's like it was perfect the way it ended. But yeah, I'm hoping to talk to him again soon one day.
I thought it was really good, and you nailed it with some really good questions. And
Thank you.
at one point, I remember he was amazed about one question you had. was really great questioning. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
I'll never forget that.
but have you noticed that many of these guys in our age that is this really intelligent guys with intention of bringing meaning to the world? They all of the guys almost is from Canada. John
Yeah,
Vervaeke, Jordan
yeah,
Peterson. I don't know if you know who Jonathan Pageau is,
Jonathan
and
Pageau. Yep.
yeah, and yeah, many different guys, and they all from Canada. Something I
Canada, yeah.
wonder there.
There's another he's not really like on the same spectrum as these guys, but there's another physician, Peter Attia. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's spoken with Andrew Huberman,
Yeah, okay.
the neuroscientist. Yeah, he teaches University of Stanford. Him and Peter Attia. Peter Attia is just a physician, but he specializes in longevity and in aging. But Peter Attia, he's from Canada as well, and he's like another genius. He just literally just knows everything. So I don't know what it is about. Maybe the Canadian system is different than clearly it's different than the American
but
education system.
yeah, but it's not just that they have big intellects and they are really smart and so forth. It's that they have a good intention of seeking truth.
Yeah.
That they have
Yep.
this care for it's verbose. I don't know if you say verbose to say that they care for the world, but in a sense that is what they do. And
Yeah.
I also laughed when I asked, nothing is. I don't perceive anything as a coincidence. But yes, might sound silly, but just a little thing like this, and this is not, and this is laughable, but just a small thing like this, Jordan Peterson, his name is Jordan. I don't. That's not a coincidence. Where Jesus baptized, in the
Yeah.
yes, small things like that sometimes just it's weird because here, for a person that don't know who Jordan is, it's like, yeah, so what? But if you see what have happened through him is he has brought extreme amount of people into Christianity, back to the faith.
Yeah. He has.
So, the flood of the Jordan and Jesus get baptized, and then his name is Jordan. Small things like that. It's important to not get caught up these details. They're easy for people that I know that you have read a lot of Jung as well.
Yeah.
And that's he's a great person to study. Exactly, and that is something that has become this new age thing for people, and it can really bring you down to rabbit holes and spiritual delusion, and see patterns everywhere that this might be right, but as you said, with the medical, with the cells and everything you talked about, like, don't get caught up in these unnecessary details. So, that was something I wanted to ask you there, because, so how is your way of working there when you have come to this more structured way to perceive the world, the seesaw, and you see what, how can I your focus has become more clear, let's say, because if I heard you correct, you have this military way of seeing what is the next best thing to focus on. So, so since you like when you immerse yourself in philosophy and psychology and so forth, is that sprung from that, or is it from like reading the Bible, or what's And is it true that it has changed in that way? Because you said it before that.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think this is a more of a personal question. I've tackled like many different things. This is going to start a whole different conversation. A couple years ago, I don't know if you're even aware of this, but I was in the music industry for a while,
oh,
and yeah, I had
what
a
kind of music?
hip hop, like rap.
Okay.
Yeah, I was managing music artists. I was a music producer. We were like doing like small venues. What state are you in?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. You're in
Yeah,
Sweden. You said you're in a different.
it lagged. It lagged for like 3 seconds
What?
now.
Oh, I'm sorry. What country are you in again? It was like Sweden.
Sweden. Sweden. Yes.
Sweden. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you ever been to America?
Yeah, a long time ago when I was like 7 years old. I was in Florida and so forth.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I've never been out of the U.S. either. It's time for me to
Where
get
are
out.
you? Where are you? What state are you in?
I'm. Uh, have you heard of Maryland?
Yes.
You've heard of Maryland, okay? Because we're like a little dot on the whole entire map. I don't know if that's like a popular area. Um, it's
Yeah,
Baltimore, where Johns Hopkins Hospital.
Okay. Yeah, Baltimore is
Yeah,
more known. Yeah.
that's where the famous Johns Hopkins hospital is. I don't know if that helps. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm. John Hopkins.
Yeah, the cancer research, like the largest cancer research hospital, like in the maybe world. I think
I,
it's in Maryland.
I don't know if I heard you correctly, but did you say John as in James? John Hopkins.
Johns Hopkins, yes, the
Yes, yes, of
hospital.
course. Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
that's in Maryland.
okay. Okay. So that was also the hospital that did much research on psychedelics, right?
Um,
Wasn't?
I'm not sure. I have no idea.
Okay, maybe I um yeah. Um
Yeah, but anyway,
uh, yeah.
I'm in Maryland. But your question was yeah. So we just used to do like little shows around the area, but I kind of tossed that aside like years ago. That's not even really like a part of me anymore. But even then, like I was driven by this, I guess, this personal want for like to succeed in something. Like I want to see how far I can push this. And not to say that like that's the only reason why I'm doing it, but it is a part of it. Like it's about 50%. Like I want to literally push this. I want to see how far I can push this. Like can I actually become a physician or a scientist one day? Like can I actually do that? And another part is now I feel like I'm not just that fool who had to say something. Like now I'm the person who has something to say. I think in the past, just to allude back to that Plato quote, I was the fool who had to say something. Like I didn't have anything to say. I just wanted to look like I had something to say. And that was like a little phase, I guess, and it just happened to manifest as a record label for some reason. But that fell, that destroyed. Not I don't really even talk to those people anymore. But now I feel like from that failure, now I have something to say. And I slowly started transitioning into philosophy and science, and now I'm here. But my main drive is unquestionably now truth, and to getting to the bottom of everything. And I would say what's driving me is that pursuit for truth. And I believe that not to say I'm like a prophet or anything, but God has definitely gifted me with a passion to pursue something and to look. He gave me this gift to get to the bottom of it, and it doesn't matter what it is. Like I have to get to the bottom of something. Like I need to get there. And what better way to do that through other than looking for the truth or to helping someone else. And I think that that's one of my this is one of my gifts. Like I didn't work for that at all. Like I was just born with the ability to get to the bottom of something and to help someone else and to help someone see something differently. And that could pretty much tie up, my whole entire point. Like I want to give somebody the tools to help them look at things differently. Not to say that what things are only how we're looking at them, but just the fact that you have the power to look at something differently. Like you have the power to do that. I don't know the verse, but it said he who comes to Christ is a new human being. You're made again. The old ways are washed away. And so on a more like a personal level, yeah, you have the power to change your perception, but like there's on a higher level, a higher level than that, like God can only that source can shift your paradigm, not to sound like woke or anything, but only he can literally turn you into a whole different person. And that's what he did for me. Like I'm a totally different person. You have to meet him halfway. Like you meet him, like you have to come to him. Like he's there. You have to come to him, but then he can, and only at that moment can he turn everything around. So I had to get there. I had to meet him halfway. And then I believe he has turned me around and pointing me towards a different direction. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Many things there I can relate to actually. I also have been in the show business,
Yeah.
but not with music. Another thing, and it's not to go into that, but that is, as you said, it's this trying to do something without a fruitful purpose. Driven by the yearning for maybe be do something different, be perceived as a certain person to the for the people around you and so forth, and but also money, of course. Money is a big thing there, but anyway, and yeah, it's really this you have to because many that if you take like a atheist position, they often, when I say they, I know I'm painting with a broad pencil, but
Yeah.
just for make it easier to talk about it. But an atheist that wish to believe, let's say, they have this presumption that if God was real, he would show him to me. But there is nothing that would would
That would make
uh,
them believe in the first place. There's no amount of evidence that would make them believe.
that's one point of it. Yes. But what I'm trying to say is, they have this presumption that if God was real and God is so intrinsically valuable and important for us humans, then he would show himself. But there is no, you can just say why. You won't get an answer. You won't get an answer of why he don't show himself, and or yeah, there is no. Okay, let's say my English is sometimes real bad, so I try to
Oh, you're fine.
clear it up. But if you say that, yeah, he should show him, but that is not how it works. That's just a presumption that person have, because everything you do in your life doesn't just appear. You know, when you're building a house, it takes time, right? You're building the
Yep.
foundation, you're building the walls, you're building the balcony and the and the and the and the not the floor, the roof, and this is also like when you as a student, as you are, and so forth, you don't just get this breadcrumbs of truth thrown at you. You have to approach it. You have to do it with intention, and you have to do it with also curiosity, of course. But there is this little fire in yourself that drawing your attention to this certain thing, but you don't really know why. But you say truth, but you know this. You don't. There is something else that is driving you. You know, and when you tap into that pattern that is searching for truth, it drives you. You know, and so with an atheist, for example, that is coming to this thing of infantile day and age we live in, that things just should come to you with any effort and responsibility. You know, it takes a long time. It doesn't just take, for some people, of course, but for most people, it's quite a struggle. You know, you have to think about the things. You have to engage in praying and maybe fasting and all sorts of things. You have to be open, because so I think you pinpointed really good there. With you approach God 50%, and then He come and help you rest of the way, so to say. If you, but you, as you know, it's this metanoia, the fragmentation, and also this constant repentance. Constant repentance. It's not like, okay, I believe and now I'm saved, you know, but it's the constant repentance and working for this. And this is also, you can see in the body. You know, you have to bring, you have to, when you train, for example, you train your muscle, you break it down to rebuild it to a stronger muscle. It's the same. Why shouldn't it be?
Huh.
I mean, there is so many presumption of things that is not. It's not. I don't know if you can say confirmed, but you know that is. It's not self-evident
Yeah.
that it should be that way. You know.
Yeah. I can't help, like, the whole entire time, the whole time you were talking about that, I was thinking about this other popular YouTuber. His name is Alex O'Connor. I don't
Oh
know if you
yeah,
ever
yeah.
heard of him.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought of him as well when I spoke about this. Actually,
Yeah.
I had him in mind as well. So
Yeah. Like, this is like, he's like one of those people, just to use him for an example. And he's like a brilliant kid and everything. He has a PhD in theology. Like,
yeah,
he's obviously done his part to get closer, or try to get closer to God, or whatever he's trying to get to. But like you said, there are a lot of presumptions in the atheistic world. And I would say maybe the largest assumption, or the largest presumption is that, like how you said, something should reveal itself to me. But I think the biggest one is they believe that they're looking for evidence, and that this is like the biggest problem. And I think not just with like covert atheists, but like people in general who are agnostics, or people who just genuinely just don't know. Like, they're looking for evidence. And the thing is, we know this back to looking for truths in different domains. We know this in every other domain, there's no aspect of your life that you engage in or that you put all your eggs in the basket based on the evidence. That doesn't exist in any other context. So, for example, like when you get in your car and you drive or you go across the street, you have about a 20 or 30% chance of dying. You can walk outside. There's a 10% chance or the 7% chance that someone can shoot you. There's a 0.0001% chance you can get struck by lightning. Well, there's the evidence. Well, are you going to walk outside today? You have the numbers are not against you, but they're there. So until you ask yourself, okay, well, am I doing this based off the evidence? And now there's different things that you can look at it. Like obviously can compare dying in a vehicle to believing in a omniscient figure. Like you can't compare those two things. But if we're talking about evidence here, okay, well then let's apply this to something that requires a little bit more faith. Let's say you're putting your stake in another human being. You want to marry this person. You want to get married or be in a relationship with this person. Where is your evidence that they're going to love you or that they're not going to cheat on you or that they're not going to be unfaithful or they're not going to stab you in the back or steal something from you or gossip or talk ill about you behind the back? Where's your evidence for that? You don't have any. And the thing is, they're looking for you're going into something for the wrong intentions. You don't get evidence and then you get presented with this evidence and then you make an objective decision and then you click yes and then now you're in this marriage or now you're in this relationship. That's not what it is. And this is how a lot of people approach religion or approach Christianity. The whole entire point is to have a relationship. And this is what the Protestants, I can't saying that right. This is what the Protestant movement was all about. It's about having a relationship with Christ. It's having a relationship with God. And every person's relationship is going to look different. So your relationship with God could just be that constant struggle of never knowing. Like that is your relationship with God. Alex thinks that he thinks that he is furthest away from God, but in actuality, he is probably closer than anyone else. Like that is your relationship with God, Alex. Like that is what it is not knowing or him not being there. Like that is the relationship. That's what it is. You are assuming that other people or this person next to you or other people who go to church and they're faithful, you think that they have this benevolent, perfect, air-free relationship with God. I just wake up and he moves mountains and he can make my objects in my living room levitate and I don't have to lift a finger. Like that's not like what is that? Like no, that's not how it is. If you even look in, I mean, people in the Bible like the prophets. I mean, they were like, it's not just about getting closer to him. It's like, what sacrifices are you willing to do? Like, what are you willing to do? People got skinned alive. People got burned. Like, if you look at the story of Job, like that man lost everything. Like, are you Job though? Like, what are you willing to do? Are you Abraham? Are you going to pick up the axe and be willing to, what are you willing to give up? Stop making the relationship about what this omniscient, omnipotent figure can do for you, and think about what are you doing for him? Not just looking and searching and reading this book or talking to this specific person. Like, are you willing to click delete on your YouTube channel with your 3 million subscribers who all love you because of how you've spoken to this atheist and this atheist and how you trash this religion, trash that religion? Are you trying to bring that into your relationship with God? Like, why are you trying to bring all that? Are you willing to hit delete on that? Are you willing to give up something that you truly love? Are you willing to give up your golden calf to have this relationship with God? Like, what are you willing to give up? And the thing is, you can't bring those old habits and those old ideologies you have, and you can't bring that in. And also, he also says, come as you are, but you're not gonna stay as you are. You're trying to bring in all these old, just like these, not perverted, but this old way of how you're looking at the world. You can't bring that in if you're truly trying to change your mind about anything, not just getting closer to God at all. Like, we can just put God aside for now. If you're trying to bring in your old ways into your new ways, you're always going to be at odds, because your old ways are not congruent with how you're trying to live now. So you can just look at it that way. You can clearly see why there is a big discrepancy there. But to get back to Alex, like, he really thinks that he's far away. He says that he's prayed, he's tried to go to a church, he's done this, he's done that, he's spoken to brothers all around the world, he's gotten a degree in theology and philosophy. And then he said, like, in this video, he said, and still nothing. Like, what do you mean nothing? What are you expecting? And that's the thing, that's the answer. Nothing. Like, what did you give to God? It's what you're going to get back. And if you have nothing there, that means you did nothing for him. This is just my opinion. But if you want to look at this, like, through the, like, Genesis, for instance, why was Abel getting everything? He was a herder of the sheep. Why was everything working in his favor? We actually don't know. And you have different schools of thought say that, he was something about farmers and whatever. I don't know. You have people who try to give the answer, but the answer is ambiguous, and we actually don't know why he got his way. We don't know. But what we do know for a fact, people always try to put the answer where it isn't. Like, we already have all the answers from that story. We don't know what Abel did, but we know for a fact what Cain was doing. Because when God came down and he said, what did he say? It's Genesis 4:7. It's one of my favorite verses ever. If thou doest well, shall thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and it will have control over you. So we know for a fact, why would God say that to Cain if he wasn't doing that? And we can see from pictures, we can see from, artwork that people tried to make. They try to depict what it was different. We actually don't know if Abel was making the proper sacrifices. We don't know. But we do know for a fact that what Cain was doing wrong. And that speaks to a deeper point. We don't know the right way to go about having a relationship with God. We don't know the proper way or what he actually wants. We have the scripture, and that's pretty much it. And that's up for a billion different interpretations. We don't know the right way. And if someone does know the right way, then he would be Christ himself, because only he understands that. But what we do know for 100% fact is how to not go about it. And we see that through one of the very first stories, and we see that through Cain. We see how to not worship. We see how to not go about looking at other people and trying to get validation for what they're doing, and getting angry and getting spiteful, and then eventually taking that anger out on your own brother. Like, we see how to not go about doing it. We don't see the right way, but we definitely see the wrong way. And I think that just goes back to God's wisdom. Like, if he did show you, even if he did come out, he basically did. He came out, he gave Moses those commandments. He said, do this. Like, here are your 10, here's the rules. And even then, was that enough? Was that enough to move the Egyptians or anyone? But was that enough? Like, did it just end there when Moses got his epiphany, and then everyone just started following the 10 rules, and then they lived happily ever after? Is that what happened? No. Did that happen in Matthew when Jesus had another revelation. He was telling them, as you were told, thou shalt not kill, but then he took it a step further. He don't even think about killing. And when he kind of gave like the updated version of the commandments of the Sermon on the Mount, did that solve everything? No, not really. In fact, that's probably what got him killed. So God, in two different, I mean, he does multiple times, but in two instances, when he, as clear as day, said, here are the rules, here's how you get in, people look at that and they do the complete opposite. So we can see just from that, if those people struggled with that back in the day when they were as closest to God as it possibly could, why do we think that we can do it now in 2025? So he gives us glimpses of how not to go about doing it. He shows us this is how, if you do this, this is what's going to happen to you, so that we can see that and so that we can make the changes ourselves, so that we can go to him. And that is why we have our free will. Here are the rules. Here is what you're supposed to do. You can either do those or you cannot do those. If you're not going to do this, then here is your trajectory of your life. If you're going to be bitter, if you're going to be resentful, if you're going to be spiteful, if you're going to be licentious, if you're going to be looking at what everyone else has, this is what's going to happen to you. And this is how your fate will end up. And we see that. We can clearly see that drawn out. And we also see what happens if we do walk with God. We see that he will open doors for you, and it's not going to go well. And matter of fact, it probably goes worse for people who chose to walk with God. It goes worse if we're being completely honest here.
Yeah,
We can
because
see
the
about
promise, because the promise of a resurrection in everyone will be resurrected, but not everyone will have how does it how to say it ever well-being is from Saint Maximus, I think. Ever well-being for the people that have followed God in this life, and the people that haven't done that will live in a ever non-well-being. I don't know, but something like that. And so what you said there is very true, and because you can't let's say expect that just because you're following God, you will have all the riches and all the things of the fallen material world, and that everything will work out fine for you and so forth. That is also one of those presumptions, actually, that and that is very detrimental for people that have this assumption of Christianity, that we have this picture of it, because the downwatered form of Christianity is that way, that just do this and everything will be fine. But it's detrimental in that way, because then people do, like, they try it like entertainment, and then it doesn't give you anything, then I just dismiss it, because it is not about that you will get, in a way it will get better for you, of course, in many ways, but not in the material sense, not in the worldly sense. Be you're supposed to be in the world, but not of the world, is it say?
Yeah.
So
I think about it was written, if you look at pictures of Auschwitz, it's before like you get into the main entrance. They said a term in German, I don't know how to say it, but what it translates to is work will set you free. And that's very disturbing that the Nazi Party would put work will set you free on the pearly gates of what essentially is hell. And if you to read stories about the Holocaust and the people who were in there, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, that's one of the really great books. If you look at the videos and the clips, work definitely didn't set you free. And in fact, work actually is what killed them. And there was no purpose to the work. Not just that there wasn't a purpose to the work, there wasn't a purpose to the suffering. And if you want to talk about the worst possible situation human being can be in, there is nothing that even comes close to pointless suffering. There's nothing that comes close to that. And when a human being is in a setting where their suffering does not make any sense, meaning that they don't know why they got there and they don't properly see a way out, there is absolutely zero hope for that person. There's no hope. There's nothing, because there's no purpose to go up and there's no purpose to go down. There's literally no direction. And we know this on if you look at this like from a scientific standpoint, what drives us forward, what gets us just a little bit forward, is that little extra bit of that dopaminergic satiation that we get from positing a goal. Once we posit the goal, once we attain that goal, the dopamine is what gets us to the next goal. If we look at this like from a neuroscientific standpoint, the dopamine is what gets us to that goal. It's a motivator, yes, but the serotonergic satiation is that's what you get after the goal. And we know this scientifically, that is one of the main things that improve your mood, improves your health, improves your sense of well-being. I hate saying that, but it just improves literally everything about
Okay,
that
sorry.
person.
It's when we talk about well-being, we talk it in a more philosophical sense and a religious sense, in a, let's say,
Yeah,
metaphysical, spiritual sense. But well-being in a corporal sense.
a well-being in a corporal sense, yes.
Yeah.
But but one of the things that, and it's very interesting that work will set you free will be on top of the entrance and Auschwitz. But the same as that thing is, we torture ourselves in different aspects all the time, because there's a trade-off for that suffering. Like, for instance, you happen to be in training and you're doing your diets, a 48-hour fast. I mean, that's freaking hard. I mean, that's not something that everybody can do. You're sitting there, you're starving, your glycogen is, just completely depleted, your blood sugar is low, you're getting dizzy, you're getting anxious, you're getting angry, and you're 38 hours in, and you got, just got that little bit of time left, and it's very, very hard. But the thing is, you're doing it for a purpose. There's a reason you're doing it. There is a reason for this suffering. And when you take the purpose out of the suffering, that is literally what hell is. There's no purpose to the suffering. It's fruitless.
Yeah.
So we do this in the gym, we do this in academic settings. I'm going to study really hard. My eyes are going to be dried out. I'm going to be worn out, and I'm probably going to get about 3 or 4 hours of sleep. Why? I'm making a trade-off. Back to the Thomas Sowell quote. I'm not making a solution. I'm making a trade-off. I'm trading. I'm sacrificing. I'm making a sacrifice. And I think that one thing that the atheist can start thinking about is, what am I sacrificing? What am I trading off? Because if I'm not making a trade, if I'm not trading something, I'm having pointless suffering. And if I'm in pointless suffering, then I'm going to die in every possible way possible. I'm going to die. I'm going to become a hopeless slave to my own wants and to my own desires, because I'm not making a meaning of the suffering. It goes back to the Nietzsche quote. There needs to be a purpose in the suffering. Even Christ's suffering had the ultimate purpose.
Yeah.
So if you find yourself suffering or wrestling with God hopelessly, then you need to ask yourself, okay, well, what is the purpose here? Why am I trying to get closer to God? I don't have to pick on Alex here, but it's really annoying when someone like that has a platform and they spent years like what's his name? Christopher Hutchins and David Richard Dawkins and people like that who spent their whole career just crapping on religion. Like, why are you trying to get closer to God? Like, ask yourself why. Like, what is your point? What is your purpose here? Back to things having a central meaning, a central purpose. You can get closer to any religion you want. He can try. You don't see him trying to get closer to Buddha. You don't see him trying to be a Tao. You don't see him going to the freaking Middle East and going to the Kaaba or whatever. You don't see him with a yarmulke on his head. He can do anything he wants, but he wants to get closer to God. Why? Why God? What is it that he's looking for? And I think until he asks himself that, until the atheist himself asks himself that, like, what are you trying to get out of this? Look at your intention. What do you want? Why do you think God is separating himself from you? And I don't like this definition of hell, but I see where people go. The furthest that's what hell is the furthest separation to God. This is what you chose. This is where you wanted to be. And then God's going to give it to you. Because I believe he's a gentleman. He's not going to force you to make you believe in him because he's given us the free will. So you need to ask yourself, is this what I wanted? Is that what you wanted out? Alex, this is actually what you wanted. You looked at every religion and you deconstructed it and you destroyed everything around you down to the point where you can't get the fruits anymore because you destroyed it. In this setting that you're in right now, this is actually what you really wanted. You wanted confusion. You wanted hopelessness. This is what you wanted. This is the thing that you created. This is going back to Genesis 4:7. This is the thing that you created. And until he understands that he's actually where he actually wanted to be, until he understands that, there's no hope. And work will not set him free. Because we already know that work doesn't set us free. Because faith without works is ultimately death.
Yeah. And from an Orthodox perspective, he haven't, in that case, he have a big problem with coming to it as well if you don't. Because things can be true in different ways. It's not just the things we can see and touch and smell and sense and so forth, but if we would go more of a traditional route, much of the tradition is there is where you get everything, every meta from that is not within the Bible. Let's say there is many things that that people take for granted that isn't in the Bible but is in the tradition because it's coming from Jesus to the apostles, and then from the apostles to the church fathers, that is disciples of the apostles, and then from those church fathers and so on and so on and so on. And there is where it's preserved also. So if you're atheist, you can't, if you want to research, let's say, everything, you have to also take tradition seriously, because many of the things that we just take for granted about Christianity is actually from tradition. You have to also remind yourself that something like the liturgy was before the Bible. Before the Bible was becoming the canon. So it's not just like the Bible is one book. It's many different books, and it's all the writings that is intrinsically brings value. And so you can't just go with like this modern day scientific truth, because it has become this like scientism. And today we have the priests; they are the scientists. You hear like many, the people of day and age just say it is this because science says so. And then again, you look at many studies. I think I've read something about like 50% of all studies is forgeries. How can there was some really interesting article that laid that out, and I wouldn't be surprised, because just something like the science or the exploration of how the world came to be, like the Big Bang, for example, Darwinism, and so forth. That is much better for the powers that be. Let's say that people think that, because if it's religion and so forth, it's much harder to control the people as well. So there is also this lobby groups for many different things. For example, it's quite apparent, after the so-called pandemic and so forth, that you see now it was many of the things that people said it was true, but many lost their jobs just for saying controversial things in that context. They got like downplayed and lost and ruined their lives and so forth. And
That there are the heresies.
yeah, medical pharmaceutical money interests, and that you can with that I didn't want to get into particular that, but that I mean is that if everything is driven, if most of the things in the modern world is driven by mammon, money, mammon, and Jesus, I think, is said. I don't know who said it, but I think it's in the New Testament. He said, "You can't follow You can't follow two gods," and he do the distinction between God and mammon. And mammon, I think, is where the word etymologically money comes from. And that is what drives our world today, is money. So it's not surprising if the studies is driven by corruption. Let's say that it's you do a study that you know how the outcome will be. It's not a surprise. It's not.
And nowadays, I
don't
mean,
think it's-
in order wherever the NIH gets their money from, which would probably be, I have no idea where the NIH gets their money from, but I know in order to get a grant, your research has to be tailored towards whatever they want to approve. And
someone you mentioned before also talked about this, actually. Andrew Huberman. He also have critics of that, of how it works in the
I'm sure I'll see. I haven't published yet, but I'm sure I'll see whatever that world is whenever I get there. Hopefully, be by next year.
of what? Sorry.
I'm getting into neurodegenerative diseases. I want to do research in Parkinson's, MS. Yeah.
So in that realm, as I told you in the message there, I can go in a little bit about that, but
I'm interested. You don't have to go super deep. I was interested in if you can mind sharing that? Like what exactly? I know you said it was at C6 or something.
Yeah, exactly. So when I was legal, like 2 years old, I got the diagnosis. Yeah, this is way back. Just to give some context or more.
And how old are you, by the way?
So I'm 35.
35. Okay.
And you are?
I'm turning 27 tomorrow, actually.
Listen. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Congratulations beforehand.
Yeah. Thanks.
So anyway, when I was 2, I was diagnosed with asthma.
Asthma?
Asthma, yes. And I think, it was not a correct diagnosis. It's just inflammation, but I don't know how that works. But I think it's because I did take medication for a while then when I was like, yeah. So when I was like 8, I think 8, 9, I just stopped taking medication because I didn't like it, and I didn't like that. The doctor said that, yeah, your condition, when you're running and so forth, your breath won't be as well as other people and other children, and so I was like, okay, I don't want that. I don't buy that. So I worked on my condition and I trained hard and I get a real good condition. So I didn't take medication since I was like 8 years old, 9 maybe once if I felt something. So anyway, so that's just one little bit of it so you can understand the other, that it's, as I told you, it was this latent thing I have, like inflammation and asthmatic. That wasn't too bad. Just a little bit in the stomach and asthma and so forth. But anyway, so in 2020, I hurt my C6. I don't know how to say it in English, but your spine. What's the called the knots?
Cervical spine. The knots.
Yeah, then the
The disc. The disc.
the disc. Yeah, the disc. It's the same in Swedish. So the disc. As it's there in the C6, which is where the central nervous system is. So right when I cracked it, I got symptoms.
What happened, if you mind me asking? Like, what happened?
It's really stupid. It was caused by myself. I was in a pond or a lake it was completely dark and so forth. So I was bathing and I thought it was really nice. And then for some reason, I don't often bathe in lakes, mostly in, lakes that is deep. So I just took, I wanted to push with my legs from the harbor, on my back. And, in the lake water, it's not salt. So you don't float that well. So I was bending my neck like this and pushing with my feet, and it cracked. So I was swimming with one arm into the ladder, and I was alone there. So yeah, I'm lucky. But
Oh my God.
yeah, so I just came up, and I felt my strength in my right hand was really, and is still bad. It was.
That's where the brachial plexus begins, I believe, is at C6. So the brachial plexus starts at somewhere in C, and it innervates all the median, the radial nerves on the other arm.
And also the shoulder is still cracking when I do this. And anyway, I got many symptoms. And one problem, one thing I shouldn't have done that I did was I have planned a 14-day hike in the north. And that's one thing, that's one of my, most, that's my biggest interest, hiking alone in solitude and just be in nature and so forth in the mountain and forest. So I didn't, it take a lot of planning, food, and you have plane tickets and everything. So I didn't want to um, I don't want to cancel it. So I wanted to a quick fix, but the day after I felt really bad. I couldn't come up, almost not. It took me a long time to come up from bed, and it hurt really bad. But then I want a quick fix because I'm going to this hike, and I'm going to carry all this heavy bag, and also be in cold weather for 14 days and so forth. So I went to nap. I don't know how to say it in English, but naprapat, not a chiropractor, but the other one. Anyway. You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. You
Yeah,
went out
yeah.
a bit, but I
Yeah, so anyway, so I went to some kind of chiropractor. He was really good, I have heard. So I went to him, and but when I told him I have a problem with my neck, and I'm soon leaving for this hike. So he did what he shouldn't have done. Actually, he cracked my neck without me having the X-rays. So that, I think, worsened it very much. But it got better. But I think when I came home, I noticed when you have been outside for 14 days in cold water. Of course,
how did you know it was your C6 if you didn't have an X-ray?
at that time I didn't have the X-ray, so I didn't know. So he did it before.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Oh my gosh. All right.
yeah. And so it got a bit better, some relief from it. But I think it hurt very much
Yeah.
afterwards. So anyway, I came home. I've been outside hiking for 14 days. Came and go first time in 14 days. Come in a house, sleeping out in a tent. So it's quite usual. You feel your hands like feel a little strange, and you feel like fever and so forth because of the heat. From you're not used to the heat. So, but then I came home and I started noticing. Uh, Before that, I have also noticed, of course, when I train and also with the neck pain and all these things. But after the hike, I noticed even more symptoms, like my legs numbed. I didn't feel them, and then they come back, and then one leg from the knee down, just I didn't feel it for like an hour or something like that, and many different things that just didn't was right. And then fast forward like 1 year, and I was going to a 30-day hike this time. And right before, like a couple of weeks before, I started to feel something in my stomach, some kind of stress, And I would say it's also a cause for myself, because I'm like this. I do things that people don't want to do, and I do them every day. If I say I'm gonna do something, I do it. Like ice bath, I did it for 3 years every day. Not yeah, and not like when I was sick and so forth, but yeah. But I had to stop that, because so I'm in that way I have been quite unbalanced. Same with the breathing exercises. Did that for some years until I couldn't do them anymore, because of physical racism. So it's my own fault. And then before this 30-day hike, I was supposed that I did in 2021. I started to feel something in my throat, and then I thought, okay, yeah, it's like in my this lymphs. I thought it was not too bad. So I went on the hike, didn't feel it on the hike, came back home. After a week, I noticed it came back. I couldn't eat. I could eat like 1/2 of a chicken fillet, bite of chicken, and then I was full. stuff starting to come up from the throat and everything like that. I have pressure in my head. Ever since the neck pain, you get pressure and everything. The eye was a lot of symptoms anyway. So this, I went to the doctor and so forth. I can't go into that because it is a long story, the battle with a medical institution, everything, But so what I think is happened then was because I had this lump in my throat and it haven't went away, and I have had it since 2021. So that's 4 years. And it's persist, and it got worse now and right before Christmas. So it got so bad that it numbed up my whole throat. So what I did I went into a total carnivore diet, more like a lion diet. Only eat beef, or food with more than one stomach, ruminal meats, and but I only eat 99%, 99.9. I only eat beef, and also beef liver. But I started noticing some reaction to it, so I only ate salt beef, and and cut everything else out, like amino acid I take before training, but without any sweeteners. It's just completely. Yeah, so that is it, and what I think it is, with my layman knowledge and so forth. It was the central nervous system that um, got triggered, destroyed in some way, and that triggered the physical symptoms, and in a secondary cause, I think this is our peripheral nervous system that.
Peripheral neuropathy.
Yeah, and it's triggered my underlying tendency for inflammation, so it became an autoimmune disease as well. And this thing contains everything from white hands, they will become completely white, and me going ice bathing, have completely white fingers, and go home in winter and doing those things. I never recommend people to. I work as a coach, so I often say I don't recommend things that I do. No, because I know I'm quite unbalanced in some way. My mind is stronger than my body. so 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 all these symptoms became very. They went away some, but some sustained all the way until this day, and then some got worse and so forth. So
Did you ever figure out what the lump was in your throat? Did you ever figure out what that was?
I think no, I've read up on it recent weeks because it became worse, and also my doctor said to me that he think I had systematic systematic sclerosis, the diffuse type. The one that attacks the internal organs and so forth as well. But the test came out as good, but there is some tests that need to be done, blood tests like TPO and so forth. But because I analyzed.
Oh, he thought you had a thyroid nodule.
No, I will. Sorry for explain it so in a fragmental way.
Because the TPO is your thyroid peroxidase.
Yeah, exactly, and that was what he was testing me as well for that thyroid problems, but he thought I had a systematic sclerosis. But I saw when I took all the test results, looked at them, and then I put it in ChatGPT and let him analyze it, and I think he did a really good job, because he said also said to me also to take TPO because that wasn't in the analysis. But what I can see and he can see is that I was on the upper end of having too much T4. So that and all the symptoms.
Sounds like a hyperthyroidism.
Exactly.
You had a
Yes.
a goiter.
Exactly. So what I have done for many years is trigger myself with adrenaline, with all this breathing exercises, training, fasting, ice bath, a lot of stress. And then all the stress you have, when you're working and you're doing a lot of stuff, but all this corporal stress have elevated it. So,
Yeah.
So what I think but the other one doesn't cancel out the other one. It's very possible to have systematic sclerosis in some level and have the other one in some level. It's interconnected, in some ways. So that's what I think now, and I will have a talk to my doctor actually tomorrow, and I will tell him to get this additional test for me. But I think it's hyperthyroid, as you said.
Yeah.
It's one of
Actually, if you now I'm thinking about it. It's not more. I mean, I'm not a doctor or anything, but endocrinology is like happened. I was studying that for like almost like 2 years straight. It sounds like hypothyroidism. Because if you had a high T4 in a TPO test was ordered, the thyroid peroxidase is what allows iodide to be converted into iodine in the thyroid. So if you had a high T4, that means that iodine it's not able to it's not being synthesized in the thyroid gland. So that would be indicative of a hypothyroidism. What was your TSH? Did you get your TSH?
Yes, the
Level?
THA, but not the TPO.
What was the TSH?
I don't know. It was okay. The TSH was okay. The only thing that wasn't okay, that was elevated, is the T4. So for me, it's what I read up on it. It seems like hyperthyroid, because when I get stressed, it become worse. And I actually
Yeah, some autoimmune thyroid. Sorry to cut you off, but some autoimmune. If you have autoimmune thyroiditis, sometimes it can be it can be transient. So in some stages, you'll have hyperthyroidism, and you will have like the common symptoms, like you'll be fatigued, constipation, like things like that. And then you'll have a hyperthyroid stage where you have the stages of hyperthyroidism. So you'll be like anxious, you'll be like always like on the edge, like loss of sleep, things like that, be stressed. And then you have like a euthyroid stage. So you could have the transient of the thyroiditis that it kind of like hypo, then you have a euthyroid, then you have a hyperthyroid stage. But that's just that's just my guess.
Yeah, and if I hear you correctly, you mean that it's possible to have, because the body is confused. It doesn't know where to. It's confused by the signals of the body, so it attacks something that shouldn't be attacked.
Yeah.
To get inflamed. And as you said there, it's if I hear you correctly, you mean that when it's like this transient, it can switch from hyper and hypo, right?
Yeah, so if it's
Yeah.
an autoimmune, it's
Yeah.
autoimmune.
Because what doesn't fit in my in my case is I sleep well and everything like that. I don't have anxiety. I don't, the one thing I have is the heart that is pumping irregular. It's pumping up irregular. Sometimes it's really hard.
Yeah.
many throughout the day. But yeah, I think that sounds really. I think you were right on there because it's.
Yeah. The thyroid is
But you
a
never know.
monster gland. Like is one of my favorite parts to study. And that's interesting that you said that, because one of the things that T4 and T3, they literally control everything. And that's not like being hyperbolic or anything. Like, they literally control everything. That the proliferation of dendrites in the brain, that they can increase the level of low density lipoproteins in the liver synthesis, the breakdowns of fats. They send signals to the heart. They actually, so you said you were experiencing arrhythmias. They actually increase the level of beta receptors on the heart, which increases their cardiac output. So if you have high T4, they're actually increasing the amount of beta receptors on the heart, which is increasing that cardiac output, increasing blood pressure. So that's kind of interesting that you put that out there. And I mean, T4 and T3, they have like it's unexplainable of the effect that they can have on the human body, not just in the thyroid, but I mean, like everything, the eyes, the limbs. I mean, it's a lot, and it's like a seesaw. So they have to be right in the right proportion, or else you'll have the experiences of like the hyper or the hyperthyroidism symptoms. And that's interesting that you had no trouble with sleeping, or you don't have any anxiety or anything. That's interesting. That could just be like your own grit. Like, that's like your temperament. It could just be because of that. Well, I don't know.
I get good routines, I would say. I have really good routines, and I would say I'm not that impacted by external thing. Everyone is, but I would say I am. I'm quite stoic in a way. I can, but because I don't get dragged down by things, and when you have
That's
garden
real.
also, it's yeah,
It's
it's
great.
yeah, it's real great actually. But I think also it's my temperament, of course, and also I got very good routines because almost in my life I have always had problems sleeping. But
Problem falling asleep or
yeah,
staying asleep.
yeah, I could just look at the ceiling for any amount of hours. But then I actually started to get up in the morning, get sunlight in my eyes, get out and get sunlight for a longer time, and cut all the lights around like 8 9 p.m.
Yeah.
and that just worked like that, and that was what I got from Andrew Huberman.
I was going to
Yeah.
say he would be super proud to hear that.
Yeah, so
It's super interesting because the pineal gland produces more melatonin when it has less light. Like, that darkness is what produces that melatonin, which gives you that which then lowers their cortisol levels, which helps you fall asleep.
Yeah, it was really, really, really powerful. But you have to have it in a routine. You have to get out, get the sunrise.
I tell my girlfriend that all the time, because every time she always tells me that she can't fall asleep, it's because she literally has her phone right there with this gigantic LED screen in her face, scrolling, watching Instagram reel after TikTok after TikTok. And I'm like,
That's
this
a
is
killer.
literally why you cannot sleep that way.
No, that's the worst way, and also this, I just came to mind that if you noticed when I saw that when I said that I was supposed to get out on a 30-day hike, it actually went out 32 days, but that I had this lump in my throat. But when I came out, if you're like me and eating primarily animal foods, then you need a really good and sturdy cutting board. I use a cutting board for cutting, of course, but also as a plate. So for me, it's really, really important to have a really sturdy but also a really nice and non-toxic cutting board. No plastic, no poisonous materials. Handcrafted, unique equipment for your kitchen. From nothing to something. That's the spirit behind Gunnar's Woodcraft. Crafted by hands, guided by precision, and driven by the pursuit of perfection. Each piece reflects the mindset, never settle, always refine. Because true craftsmanship isn't about quantity. It's about meaning, detail, and relentless dedication. Strive for better, strive for perfection. Gunnar's Woodcraft. Quality over quantity. And remember, strive for better, strive for perfection. Gunnar's Woodcraft. So don't miss out on this beautifully handmade woodcraft. Yeah, anyway, I will just get to that point, when I said that I had this feeling in the throat, and then I went out on the hike, and then came back. But all the time when I was out hiking, I didn't feel anything. But when I came home, it started again. So all this contaminated modern society also brings this trigger to the autoimmunity, I think. So, and also, of course, the stress is downplayed because of you're in a natural environment that brings you you're very calm and so forth. But anyway, a great point there with your wife or girlfriend there with cell phone. Extremely important, as you know, to be really hard on yourself, because we all in some way are addicted to it, even if we don't want to be it, we are it, because everything you have is in your phone. You need it very often, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that really destroys the sleeping pattern, the circadian rhythm. So, so I have been holding you here for more than 2 hours, and the time just flew by. Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. I think I had more question for you, but maybe if you want to, we can do this some other time.
Yeah, man.
I really enjoyed talking to you. You're a really intelligent man, and have a really great mind, and you have very different way of thinking, and it's a
Thank you.
it speaks to me. So is there
Yeah,
anything?
I appreciate you having me on, and it's super cool that you have an audience in a whole different part of the world. I guess now I can my words will be exposed to Sweden now, I guess, and that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. And I would love to have you on my podcast. Hopefully, when I get I'll get my audio and my whole setup right eventually one day. You can hop on. I would love to hear more about your not just to talk about your condition or anything, but we can have like a kind of like a more like a health and science-based conversation. That would be fun. That would be something different I would do on my podcast. But I think that's something that's really people can benefit from that a lot, especially nowadays. People can get a little over obsessed of the health. There is like a tendency, especially now, like if you go on TikTok, they're like, this guy was like trying to get people to avoid spring water, like don't drink water, and people are saying don't eat oatmeal, and literally if you go on to the average health guru, like they're literally telling you that you can't eat anything, literally. So I think it's important that people who actually have conditions, or people who are kind of somewhat educated, we have conversations, and people can possibly benefit from it.
Yeah, I'd love to come on your podcast as well. Will be really interesting, and I that's something I try to try to flesh out sometimes also that, it has to be balanced. It's very important to see. So as you said, it's things should be used for its intrinsic purpose and not just in excess. And I know that excess is not good for you. I am a living example of that. So you shouldn't do too much of one thing too far. It's not good. But
Right.
and I will put all your information in the description. So where can people follow you and so forth, different channels, or if you have something you want to plug or something in the pipeline and so forth?
People can reach me on Instagram, Kyle Jordan Maxwell. I think I just changed my YouTube channel to say Kyle Jordan Maxwell. Um, Basically everything says Kyle Jordan Maxwell, and I don't necessarily have anything to plug right now, but I have something in the works. I'm starting to. I don't know when I'm gonna like officially say it, but I'm trying to get together a online university where I can put together different lectures, like if I'm having like a philosophy lecture, or if we're talking about, or just a lecture on Jung, or just a lecture on like history or whatever. Trying to get like a aggregate different videos, like have a platform where people can go and watch them essentially. But I haven't started recording any of the lectures yet and stuff. But that's in the works right now. Hopefully you can launch. I want to say this fall, hopefully.
Oh, really,
Yeah.
really interesting stuff there, and I think that will be really good for the people that will watch it, and also for yourself. You will develop a whole lot of doing those lectures, and yeah, that will be very exciting to see when that is published. And
Yeah.
you can always reach out to me in any way. And I was I was thinking about the technical part. I'm not a IT guy in that way, but I have some knowledge of the mics and what is quite good to have and so forth. So I can help you a little bit about with the technical stuff if you don't know what to purchase and so forth, and different programs that generate good sound and so forth in a easy way. And if there is anything, just reach out to me in any way. So, and again, I'm very appreciate very much that you came on today and had a really good conversation here. So, wish you all the best, and hope you have a blessed birthday tomorrow, and I spend it with
Thank you.
you.
Try not to think about it, but I know I'm not that old, but I feel old.
1 year wiser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matthias. Thank you for having me on, man. It was a pleasure.
Same, man. Likewise, likewise. Have a good day.
You too, man.
Okay. Bye, Kyle.
I see ya.
So there's the end of episode 6. And if you had something to add to this conversation, you can share that in the comment section. And don't forget to check out Kyle Maxwell's podcast and also his YouTube channel, which you can see up here. And for the next episode, episode 7, we will be joined by Dr. Pete Petistes, who is the author of the book, The Athos Diet. Before there were Actings, there were Athos. Hope you join us then. We will talk about training, fasting, and get it some philosophical aspects to diet and why diet is so important and bleeds into everything in our lives. Anyway, thank you for joining us for this episode. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and all that good stuff. And also click on the notification bell so you get a notice when I will release my next video or my next episode. If you would like to book a coaching session with me, you do that easiest by visiting my website. And you can also just send me an email directly. And you will find my mail in the description of this video and also somewhere here in the screen. And if you want to have some help with your diet or training, you can also check that out on my website, what I offer. But as any of my services, it's best to contact me and ask personally. And through that, we will customize according to your needs and what you like to improve in your life. Thank you very much and have a pleasant day. Bye.